Here we have the Philodendron Cordatum, also known as the heart-leaf philodendron because of its heart-shaped leaves. I feel like this must have been a plant that was discovered way early on because a lot of plants have heart-shaped leaves, but this one got the heart-leaf philodendron name. So anyway, let's get into the care instructions for this beautiful trailing plant. Can also climb. It is epiphytic. It does have these aerial roots that will come out, so you can do it either way. But anyway, these will do best in very bright light. However, they will sustain medium and lower light super well. This is actually a plant that I regularly install in people's homes in lower light sections because it does do really well in that environment. But of course, if you want it to grow as big as possible, as fast as possible, you're going to want to give it really bright light. And on that note, in our personal houseplant collection, we have a little over 100 houseplants in our home. This is our fastest grower of all of the plants that we have. I usually have to cut off about 3 or 4 or 5 feet at the end of the summertime, you know, going into winter. It just gets so long and it's trailing all over the floor, so it's a very fast growing, rewarding plant. So bright light is the key for these ones, but again, they will tolerate other conditions. Moving on to watering. Now these are a lot like pothos. I treat these exactly like I do my golden pothos. So with watering, I let them dry out about 25% down into the soil. During the spring and the summer months, this is when it's actively growing. I let it dry out about 25%, and then I soak the soil, saturate all the roots. You guys know how I like to water my plants. Every time I water them, it's a complete saturation of all of the soil, all of the roots, and being sure to let all of the water, all of the excess water, drain out the bottom before I put it back in its decorative pot and put it on display. During the fall and the winter months, you can let it dry out significantly more, maybe 50 to 75%. It kind of depends on your environment. If it dries out too much, the plant will wilt pretty heavily. The leaves won't be rigid anymore. They'll be very limp and loose. It's not a big deal. If that does happen, just give it a really good thorough soaking and it'll pop back overnight into this beautiful rigid kind of shape you have here. So they're very forgiving when it comes to watering and light, which makes it a very good beginner plant. Moving on to fertilizing. If you want to maximize growth during the spring and summer months when it's actively growing, I give it a well-balanced fertilizer, just as directed on package. It depends on which fertilizer you get to know how often you're going to be fertilizing. Some it's every watering, some it's once a month, bi-weekly. So just follow the directions on the package and make sure it's a balanced fertilizer. So 10-10-10, 15-15-15, 20-20-20, something like that. If you want to repot these guys, they're not too picky about soil either. What I use is 3 parts moisture retaining material, so something like just a regular houseplant mix, whatever you can find at your local gardening center works really well, or online. And then I mix that with 1 part, something that's going to drain really well. A cactus soil, a pumice stone, perlite, something like that. They want to retain quite a bit of moisture, but they also want to dry out too. They don't want to be wet all the time, otherwise their roots will rot. If you want to propagate this thing, it's exactly like pretty much all the other vining plants that you know and the pothos. I just take off 1 to 2 leaf clippings at a time, and I will cut in between the nodes. So this is a node right here where all these little aerial roots are coming out. This is a node where the aerial roots are coming out. Anywhere where a leaf is coming out is a node. So I will cut in between the nodes, and I'll stick that in water, and right where the nodes are, right where those aerial roots are, right there, is where roots will be coming out. I change the water weekly, and then I'll just plant it back in the soil. You can also just take a cutting like this, you know, of 1 or 2 leaves, stick it right back in the soil, and that's a good way to keep your plant nice and full and healthy looking. But that's going to do it for the care instructions for the Philodendron Cordatum, also known as the heartleaf philodendron. If you have any questions about this character, let me know in the comment section below, or of course you can always message me on Tanner the Planter, which is on Facebook or Instagram.